Welcome to Call Your Hits, a Storm Riders Airsoft podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Today, I'm joined by Chris and Jimmy of Nomad Airsoft, hosts of the BBs Don't Hurt podcast, which you may have heard me on a few weeks ago. Chris has been playing Airsoft since about 2009, and he dragged Jimmy to an Airsoft game last year, and they've been gaming together ever since. And in addition to that, both of them are U.S. Army veterans, having served 5 years and 3.5 years, respectively. And Chris and I were talking over Discord, and we recently had a chat around doing an episode because they're heading out to a MILSIM event tomorrow at time of recording called Operation Hidden Archer, which is in Ballahack in Virginia. And so when we were talking, we're like, hey, well, why don't we actually do like a two-parter where we do like the prep conversation and then get back together and talk about how all of that sort of actually shaked out on the day, and talk about how all that went. So this is what today is going to be. So this is going to be Jimmy's first MILSIM event, if I understand correctly. And so I think it's a really good opportunity for us to have a chat and sort of blend a couple of different questions together. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
So I guess where I wanted to start, is like, I guess right at the beginning, like this event, Operation Hidden Archer, sort of what is it and what drew you to that event in particular?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
All right. So Operation Hidden Archer, it's a MILSIM run by Ballahack Airsoft Field here in Virginia, which is pretty close to where I'm based out of, I guess. And what really drew us to it was we've played at Ballahack multiple times. It's a fantastic field. The staff there is super professional. They don't put up with a lot of crap, but they also make it really fun. They try to encourage competition without being negative or rude or anything like that, but also without detracting from what it is. You know, it's a sport. It's a fun game where you're trying to eliminate the enemy. But so the general premise of it all is it's like a 2-stage operation with a company-sized element, which is I think at a 68, right? We decided
it's 60. It's 60 like players, and then there's leadership part of it. There's 3 platoon leaders, 3 platoon sergeants, and then a CO. I still think it's 67. I swear. I know
it's 68 in the warning order.
I'm telling you, it's 67.
It's 68. I checked.
I'm gonna count tomorrow.
So it's a company-sized element, essentially just a regular light infantry unit. We're going to be doing route clearance, checking for IEDs, while also pushing up vehicles down at what's known as a MSR, or a main supply route, which is basically just a big fancy term for a road that can be easily used to distribute supplies from one location to the other. And then from there, we're going to reconsolidate, find the enemy, and then proceed to eliminate them and set up a position for extract. So that's the general premise of it. They're pretty light on the details and the planning.
The Warno had.
Yeah, the Warno wasn't great.
The Warno had such small information. The Warno, or the warning order, like I told you today, Phil, is basically like, I have it here, and it's three sections. It was situation, mission, and execution, and they're very, very light on details.
I mean, that's what it is. So
SMESC,
sergeant majors eat sugar cookies is how we always used to say it in the Army. Situation, mission, execution, supply, and command. The 5 elements to a warning order and an op order in general, or an operations order. So there's approximately like 30 enemy like role players where I imagine they're going to be like playing that double-edged character of like a civilian that's also possibly a bad guy.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And you got to work with them, kind of thing, to find the enemy, because they say you're going to be talking to role players and trying to gather intel on the enemy's location. So
I'm going to assume they're like only having 30 people play the enemy, and they're just going to like have multiple quote unquote respawns. Yeah, because I assume it's going to be a lot of like react to contact down the MSR as we're like securing it and clearing it.
It's gonna, I feel like it's gonna be intermittent little spats of contact, and then probably culminating in one big final assault at the end
Gotcha.
on
So
the us as we're trying to extract.
so this doesn't sound like a typical like force on force milsim, like red team blue team just smash at each other all day
Yeah,
long. So this it sounds more almost like well, not scripted obviously, but more almost like a role playing sort of event, in that like you guys are playing the role of this particular force. And so did I understand correctly, like the opponents that you'll be facing are all, for lack of better terms, like NPCs or actors, like they're not other players, so to speak. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
yeah. He used that exact term earlier. It's like they're basically all going to be NPCs where they have a set mission that they know that we don't know, and so the entire time they're going to be shaping the whole thing to get their desired
Or attempt to get their
effect,
desired effect.
or attempt to get their desired effect.
Because obviously they can't control ours.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but they're going
To
to
an
try
extent.
they're going to try and shape our movement to kind of push the narrative,
Gotcha.
if you will.
So
But that's what we imagine.
gotcha. Okay. So just before we get too far, because I have a lot of questions about this. Before we get too far into that part, I'm just curious, like, what does your regular airsoft play look like outside of these events and stuff? Like, what are you hitting up, like just skirmishes on the weekend, or how does that shake out for you guys?
Yeah, so it's a
Yeah.
lot of like it's weekend plays, and it's usually like and I say usually because we try to do it because Ballahack's a better field, but it's either me coming up here to Virginia to play at Ballahack with Jimmy, or Jimmy comes down to North Carolina and we go to Black Ops. But we try to stay away from Black Ops. Like I was telling you on our podcast, where like it's become so toxic down there that like it gets to where it's not fun, to be honest, to play with like
Yeah,
people there.
legit.
Even like if you go with a bunch of your friends, it's just like I don't like it's just I don't want to like badmouth a field, but it's
They got work to do.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good field. It's got potential, but
yeah.
they're failing at the admin level kind of deal. They need to get their stuff in order.
Lots of opportunities for improvement, as we say in business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not trash talking. It's helping.
Yeah.
It's corrective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, let me flag all these great opportunities you have to make things even better. Yeah, I totally understand. Absolutely. So, that's fair enough. So, obviously, you guys aren't strangers to preparing for this type of event. Like, obviously, like this event, yes, but like you've prepped to do stuff before, like in your previous work, given your background in the military and stuff. And so, and we talked. I mean, Chris, you gave me a very, very quick skinny on the what exactly a warno is and stuff, as I was saying. So, a lot of these terms would be familiar to you guys based on what you've experienced in, I mean, for lack of better terms, the real world. And in what ways have you found that the lead up for this event has been similar to lead ups that you might have for an exercise at work? And in what ways has it really been different, or almost very evident that it was playtime and not work time?
I'll let you take that one because you're the newer one. Because
Yeah.
I have my thoughts on that kind of dials into other MILSIMs as well. So.
Yeah. So I'll say this: the setup of it sounds very similar to kind of the same training style that we used to have with a lot of events and live fires and what you call like a spin up cycle for like deployments and stuff like that. You have a lot of events very similar to this. Just to touch on things you don't normally get, which is like combined arms operations, like moving with vehicles, infantry, admin, engaging with locals and stuff like that. So I like the premise of it is very good. I think you can gain a lot of information about how things work in the real world. The big so it's kind of a double-edged sword for what is reminiscent of the military versus what I think they need to change, and that's lack of communication, because that's a huge thing in the Army. And it's a huge thing here in this situation, but in a different way, right? So
Just to clarify, do you mean lack of communication is a problem in the Army, or they do a good job at it? What did you mean?
both. So
Okay, awesome.
Does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't.
No, let me explain here. So, for instance, in the Army, there's a huge lack of communication, but it's intentional in a way,
Right.
right? When an officer receives the mission, so there's like 8 troop leading procedures are what they're called, and the first step as a leader is receive the mission. So when they get the mission, they have all these details, and then they disseminate only the details that are important to the troops, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's to be understandable that they're going to withhold information until you get a real briefing. However, the information that they're withholding makes this, if you come from our background where we know how this stuff should roll, it makes it a little worrisome because of a lack of confidence in organizers to know how it actually works, if that makes any
Yeah, I
sense.
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, whereas in the military, a lack of communication is not that big a deal because, everybody knows how to do their job. In this environment, that's a very big deal because I don't know if I can trust the guys I'm going to go play with to know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that they're just maybe a little bit more information about how this game's actually going to kind of play out, little bit more about our mission, better explanation of the steps.
Which I'm hoping we'll get a con op
Yeah,
tomorrow
which
at the field.
I have. I'm very confident we will get that at some point, but as of right now, it's going into it blind, but also it's going into it blind with also without the confidence of knowing that everybody else around you is going into it blind but knows what to do.
Right.
Now we're going into it blind, unsure if everybody that we're playing with tomorrow is going to have like a good idea of what to do, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be really cool, and we're all going to have a great experience, or it's going to collapse into chaos, and
someone's going to pick up the pieces.
Exactly, and usually that falls on. Hopefully, it ain't going to fall on me. But,
Yeah, that's right. It's not your responsibility.
Exactly,
But
it is going to fall at some level on people who know what they're doing.
right.
Yeah.
Which
It's interesting,
is
Chris, you were just saying like, oh, well, we'll get a con op tomorrow. And I'm using that term. I have no idea. Like I've never used that term before today,
Yeah.
but you've explained it to me. So I feel comfortable in like, so you're going to get a con op tomorrow. But I think what's really interesting is that because of your background, like in your mind, you have an idea of what a con op is or frago is or whatever. And it's quite possible that the game organizers will use those terms as well. But what their idea of a con op is not the same as what you think it is, right? So it's like, oh, well, this is a Kazovac point or whatever, like where you will use that term because it sounds cool in military, etc. But like that has no bearing to someone who comes in to be like, oh yeah, that's a Kazovac point. It's like, no, it's not. Like that's not, like, so I guess my question to you is like, you're getting this, like, have you found that like your expectations of what you were going to receive based on what it was called has been sort of different than what you actually got?
Yeah, so I would say probably two parts, and the one part is relating it to my experience in the Army. Second part is actually relating it probably to other MILSIM games that I've been to.
Mhm.
I'll start with the Army one first because that's the easiest. Is it similar to what I've got in the Army? Yeah, our Warnos had barely any information in the Army.
Oh, good,
purposely.
awesome.
Yeah, so like it'd be very brief overview of like, hey, honestly, like a third grader wrote it. This is what you're doing. This is what needs to happen. This is how it's gonna be done, and it's very like this dumbed down explanation, probably because it needs to be explained to dumb privates a lot of the time. And then really like after that is like, and I was talking about the the concept of operations is like the commander's intent on what he wants to happen. And during that time is when you go through your sand tables and your maps. And the sand tables is basically a blown up map. Generally, like we always taped it on the floor of our command AO, like back like at in garrison in like our basically like our, I don't want to say like bunker, but like our building where our company was held. We taped it on the floor and like you put buildings and everything. It's like a blown up 3D map of like what to do, and they will literally walk through everything that goes on from the Warno, and it's just in more detail in the con-op. And that's generally like squad leaders and team leaders will get maps and everything. You'll go through like radio frequencies. You'll go through like, hey, these are checkpoints that we need to hit in terms of like, passing comms down through the convoy column as you're going out there. As far as other MILSIMs go, you like you get like a tax op and a warno and a con op all in kind of one big sheet for other milsims that I've been to, and really it just kind of ends up being like a big skirmish, especially Lion Claws games. We always like to joke with the other guys I go to, Lion Claws games are just like big, pickup games
Mm-hmm.
with 200 people. That's what it is. It The organization is I want to say it's there. It's like it's I would say it's intended to be there, and like sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but there's no like Warno, Conop, Sand Table. There's none of that stuff. It's like squad leaders will like just they say they'll get in contact with you, but like it hasn't. And I haven't been to like an AMS or a Milsim West game yet, and I do plan on going to them, but a lot of my buddies have. And like in those, like you'll have like you're talking about on your podcast. I just listened to the one from the game designers from Gun something.
Oh yeah, Gun Gamers. Yeah.
Yeah, gamers. Like it's the same thing where like there's a cost page, there's a USF page. Like I'm part of the cost page because that's what me and my buddies always we always run. And so like there's actually like a decent amount of like information of warnos that get put out in there. Then like con ops essentially in there. They're smaller than obviously you get in the military because you can't really make a big sand table until you're with everybody. But like they'll put maps in there and like generally have it mapped out like in a PDF map. But it's different. Obviously, it's easier in the military because you can say, "Hey, whole company needs to be in the building at 1600. We're going through the con op. Everybody's got to be there."
Yeah,
and if you're not there, then you get yelled at.
Yeah, and also, you get paid. Like that's literally your job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Airsoft would be a lot easier to organize if people actually like got paid for it, maybe. But yeah, I totally hear you. So it's interesting too, like, aside from the actual sort of prep for that, like I'm curious what your prep has looked like, because I think, and I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of the aspects of military exercises and drills and stuff is getting larger groups of people to learn and practice coordinating with each other, right? Whether it's combined arms or whether it's only your own squad or your platoon or company or whatever, right? So tomorrow you don't have the luxury of having been able to get to know your fellow players. And you sort of hinted at this a little bit, like, well, I mean, aside from you two, like you've been playing and clowning around and doing whatever together, but like the broader base, the 68 or 67, whatever that number turns out to be, you can let me know in the next one.
I'm gonna tell you in a second what number.
But like
it's 60.
So you got 65 other people, or 66 depending on the count, that you probably don't know as well, or you certainly don't know as well as each other, and you may not know even at all. So I guess my question for you is, how do you sort of plan to try and integrate yourselves as efficiently, as effectively as possible with these people, especially given that it would be one thing to do it sort of, just whenever, but like there's also stuff that you have to do. So you've got to do you integrate yourself with them and also achieve the mission, right? Complete the game, whatever you want to call it. How has that factored into your thinking? What are you looking at approaching that tomorrow?
Yeah, so you're right on the money. That's kind of you're right. I was trying to hint at that earlier with the lack of communication part. Like in the military, it's a lack of communication, but what everybody's kind of thinking. We're all on the same page. Here, you don't know because you're not talking to anybody, any of your teammates. And it's going to be interesting. Speaking as somebody who doesn't exactly have experience in this situation, I'm interested to see how I interact with other people. But I know, just like in the military, there are going to be people who know what you're doing and people who suck at everything that you're doing. Even if they know it, they're just not good at it, or they're not the brightest, right?
Yeah.
There's always that like variable in everything, but the most important part, and I think what makes like most Western nations military so strong, is at the very bottom you're taught, okay, well, if everything's falling apart, you know your job and you know what you have to do to execute. So even if we're out there and our whole platoon gets like mass cowed or like a massive casualty, or everything falls apart and the PLs can't control people, me and Chris know, hey, we need to grab this group of guys and try and get them online here and try and assault through this ambush. Or, hey, can I get like 2 guys to come with me to help attack this building? You're not you're not trying to be the hero, but you know what needs to be done, and you need to try to do everything you can to get it done, and be a likable guy, because then people will want to go with you. If you're an a-hole and
legit.
you're being a turd with everybody else, no one's gonna want to go with you, and they're just gonna be like, yeah, screw that guy, let him get schwacked in that house. Who cares?
Yeah, I think it works out well with the two of us too, because like, so Jimmy's job in the Army was a specialist and machine gunner, and I actually got out as a sergeant. So I was a sergeant for 3 years. So I did the whole like team leader thing, had to coordinate people during like our field exercises and stuff like that. Yeah. So it works out to where like I know how it's kind of like you and Pat. You guys know how each other thinks, know how each other plays. It's the same thing with us, to where I can tell Jimmy, like, hey, we need to get to that building, grab 3 guys, and let's go. And Jimmy knows exactly who to grab, what to grab in terms of, like, whether it's LMG, rifleman, DMR, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, like, it gives me the time to scope out what we need to do and kind of coordinate, like, how, hey, we need to go here to this building and then actually move on these buildings. Yeah. Like, a great example is our first time at Ballahack. Jimmy was down. There's a building where it's like 3 stories, and I was
second time.
Okay, yeah. I was on the second story, which kind of overlooks everything. The whole game was like defend the village as everybody pushes in. It's like an hour-long game. So I was actually on the second story, and obviously we've talked. Like, I arranged my rifle out to 190 feet, yeah. So I was able to like hit people. Jimmy was down there actually leading a group of like 2 or 3 guys, and I was talking to him on the radio the whole time of like, hey, you have guys here and here, you need to push this way and that way. And it works out because it coordinates really well to I want to say MILSIMs, but like at that time at Ballahack, like just day games. But I think it'll work well now if, command breaks. I say if, probably when command breaks down, just because like there's gonna be blank fire there and everything like that, and who knows what these guys have experienced in that sense. And it's like, if everything breaks down and you're dead in the water, like at least for our platoon, like I know kind of how to pick up pieces if they fall, kind of thing.
And like the whole reason we were able to like plug that hole and push the assaulters out of the compound is literally like he was giving me like call outs from the top, and I ran up to a group of guys. I'm like, hey dudes, we've been playing with them all day, and I was like, hey, you guys are good, you want to follow me, we're gonna try and plug this hole. I got my buddy up top calling shots for me, and they're like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And we go around, and I got like a group of 3 guys, and it turns to like 5 guys, and eventually I have dudes coming up to me with grenades being like, yo, where do I throw this, where are these guys at, and we're assaulting through. And it's not like the furthest I made it was like a gun team. I was an AG, which is an assistant gunner, so I was the leader of a gun team for like a month. It was like one training event before I got out of the Army. But
lucky you didn't have to deal with crap like I did.
Oh, dude, I hated it. I didn't like it. I like being the grunt. I like doing the hitter stuff. But yes, and so like I'm by no means a great leader, but I know, hey, if you tell guys everything up front and you give them the skinny of everything, they're gonna want to go with you. If you're honest with them up front, you're nice, you take care of everybody, you play well, they're going to want to go with you, and you're going to want to go with them if they ask you. It's just that mutual respect.
Yeah, it's funny that you were talking about that, and you mentioned it at the beginning, but it's true. Like, I mean, obviously the old saying, like, you get more, what is it? You get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? Like, if you're showing up to the field and being an a-hole or entitled because, oh, well, I'm a veteran. And I mean, you're like, yeah, you are, but you're still an a-hole, right? Like, bottom line, exactly. Right? Exactly. And nobody wants to listen to you. It doesn't matter. You could be, like, you could have done 16 deployments, decorated a million times. It's just, if you're a dick, people aren't going to want to work with you. And that, so I definitely, I 100% back your approach. And I think it also works the other way. Like you said just now, you're like, oh, well, I didn't make it very far. It doesn't matter, right? You're a nice guy who apparently is capable and also willing to take the initiative. And a lot of airsofters are looking for that, right? They're looking for that moment. It's like, oh, I'm working with this guy. And like, he's like this super legit, like this is the story they're telling when they're coming off the field, right? They're going like, oh, I was working with this guy and he was a gunner in the Army and he's like super legit, hardcore dude. And he told me to throw my grenade and I did. And I got 6 guys. Like that dude just, lived this amazing experience. And for you, you're just like, yeah, whatever. Like it's just some, we see this all the time. Like kids who play at the field, especially for us, like younger kids, like I run up to a piece of cover that they're behind and they're looking at me like, oh my God, he's here to save me or whatever. And that's not at all what I'm trying to do. But let's go. Like, I don't care if you're 12 or you're 20. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you've got a rifle, you hit that guy, he's just as dead as if I do, right? So I definitely take your point. And I think too, like, in the heat of the moment, right? Like, that's what you need, right? And I don't think there's a lot you can, I mean, unless you certainly talk about this, but there's not a lot of preparation that you can do for that, right? Like, yeah, you can prepare to be a nice guy. I think everybody should be preparing to be a nice guy. Like, I talk about doing ready ups. Like, if you're not doing ready ups, at least prepare to be a nice guy. Like, that's the bottom line. But like, aside from that, like, what kind of other prep, and we'll talk about like kit in a second, but like, is there anything that you can really prep in terms of your thinking, your tactics, your strategy based on the information that you're given before you head into this game?
Not really, just because, like, again, like, I want to say we know the map, but like, we only know it from like playing there on weekends. Like, we don't know details about it.
So it's like we touched on before, just with the lack of information that we kind of have, just knowing the overall general mission, knowing what it is we need to do. Like, I always go back to like the infantry rah, our job is to close width and destroy the enemy,
Yeah.
But I mean, essentially at the end of the day, that's what the game's for. We're supposed to find the bad guys, track them down, eliminate them. Get in that mindset. For me, one of the big things I struggle with is I don't want to say heated, but I get in that mindset of I really want to win.
No, you can say heated.
I get heated.
Yeah.
I get
you
upset.
Yelled at a 12-year-old for hitting you in the collarbone.
I apologize.
That's the main part.
He hit me with a machine gun, and I was like, "Yo, bro, you're not supposed to be doing that." He's like, "I can't help it." I'm like, "All right, fine, that's my bad, my bad." But
I feel like with this too is you can prepare. I mean, at least with us, with our training, you can prepare yourself what to look for.
Yeah.
So like, obviously we're doing route clearance. That means
IEDs.
Most likely they're gonna put IEDs on the road because they want vehicles to go down, and generally IEDs are tied in with reaction to contact. Obviously they're going to ambush you after that thing goes off, and so it's kind of like when you're clearing the MSR stuff to look for like IEDs, where it's like, like new piles of dirt that have been dug up, piles of trash or garbage left on the side of the road, anything that just kind of looks off, or obviously like obviously wires running somewhere, that stuff. But that's part of our training with, like, especially with like convoy operations and stuff like that. Like, you're trained to look for that stuff as you're driving down the MSR. Walking down it is a little different, just because you're watching for that and you have to watch for enemies around you. But like, that's stuff that like we can kind of start to prepare for in our heads. Like, hey, we're gonna have to look for this, gonna have to do this. Obviously, with like civilian NPCs, we're gonna have to be like talking to them, but also, low ready, because you don't you don't know if they're nice or bad.
Yeah.
So
a lot of it, like I was saying earlier, like for me, when I get heated, a lot of it's just getting in the mindset of, hey man,
it's a game.
It's not a training event. It's a game. When we play day games, I don't think like, oh, this is a training event, but I do think, I gotta win. I'm super competitive person, and plus with the training I have, it's like, we gotta shove it down there.
And I mean, Jimmy, in your defense, buddy, I think you've done a lot more of those than you've done MILSIMs, so it's understandable, right?
True. Yeah.
Like, that's where your muscle memory is at. So I think you get a total pass on that, and Chris will just keep you honest, I guess, is the bottom line on that. Yeah. So
he keeps me in mostly check. I laugh.
Yeah, it is.
And then I go, "You're an idiot." Then he goes, "Why?" And then I look at him, he just kind of goes, "Oh, okay."
It's funny, like, as I was thinking about some of the things that I wanted to ask you guys, especially given your background, and I promise after this we can talk about like the prep for the event, like the proper prep. But it's like, it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, like Airsoft seems to be like an accurate depiction of real life military operations, as much as the movie Cliffhanger is a real life depiction of real life mountaineering. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's this fun and engaging, like you're talking about like, oh, well, you're going and you're engaging with NPCs, cautious optimism and stuff, but you're there to get shot at by people, right? As opposed to sort of a real world operation where you might do a patrol and nobody shoots at you, which I guess is a good day. Like, probably, right? Nobody tried to kill me today, so we're doing good. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that. What is it? Ice Cube. Like, if a day doesn't require an AK, then it's a good day. Like, yeah. So I guess my question for you is, like, aside from the risk that's associated with, you know, real life danger, damage to property, all this kind of stuff, how have you found that this is more of like an idealized, or airsoft in general, not necessarily this up, but like, is this idealized version of military simulation compared to what it actually, like, what is the most common thing that you do in the military compared to the most common thing that you do on the airsoft field, right?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would say exposure. Like exposure to fire. Cause like realistically, like in the military, I'm not gonna break cover within like 200 feet of a guy to like run at him. Whereas like airsoft, most guns aren't gonna be able to hit you at 200 feet.
Yeah.
And if they are, like, out of like the 10 shots, maybe 3 will be able to like hit you on target. So like, I guess aggressiveness is a lot more in airsoft because I need to push up to this, like this measurement, whatever it is, away from somebody to actually engage them effectively and accurately.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one thing is like exposing your body more. One, because like BBs aren't going to go through my skin and kill me.
So, they also won't go through your cover either.
Yeah,
it's very true. I think a big thing, like for me, just noticing when we play games with just random people that we don't know, is this idea. It's like a mindset thing for me. It's always different, going into this, everybody's like, I'm going to be the hero, I'm going to be Chris Kyle, I'm going to be freaking Desmond Doss, I'm going to be this big war hero who's going to go doing all this crazy stuff, because for a lot of people, like especially when you play like weekend games or something like that, like this is their chance to live out that fantasy, whether they're too young to be able to do it yet, or they never got the chance, or they got denied the opportunity to do it. This is their chance to kind of like do it in a safe environment. But for me, it's a big mindset change kind of thing. And yeah, that mindset bleeds into, hey, I'm just going to stand behind this tree, lackadaisical, and kind of point and laugh at these guys moving on us because I know they can't hit me. When in real life, I'd be like behind cover with my head hunkered down, like popping my eye up maybe every once in a while.
Yeah.
You.
Plus, and I guess the military simulation games don't simulate all the waiting that you guys do typically when you're at work.
Yeah, they also don't mention the fact that you have a 120-pound rucksack on, plus a machine gun, plus the weight the ammo has, and you're gonna walk 14 clicks, set up a hasty ambush to contact the enemy for 30 minutes, then do all that again on the way back, kind of thing. It sets up everybody. Like I said, it kind of sets up everybody to be a hero and have a good time.
Yeah,
which it should.
Yeah,
I mean,
legit.
Obviously,
that's the whole point of it.
And the food is better.
Well, I don't know. On the list it says bring 2 MREs. I'm like, nope, I'm making peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, he's like, are you gonna bring MREs? I'm like, absolutely not.
I was like, okay, good, because I don't want to.
I mean, technically, it's a meal ready to eat, and a PB&J qualifies, right?
Yeah,
exactly. PBJs and Cliff Bars.
And you know what? They calories. Taste way better.
That's such a funny thing too. And we'll talk about prep. But like, it's also a funny thing because like I think airsofters, and I am guilty of this, are like, oh my god, MREs are amazing, and anyone who's had to eat them for any extended period, like my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, like Cal, who's served in force, like they're all like, yeah, I don't want to eat that unless I have to. Right?
Yeah. There was a point when I was deployed. I was in like Farah province, Afghanistan, and we couldn't get resupplied like food, and they were trying to bring a kitchen out to us. So all we have are MREs, but we had a limited stock of MREs, and so they're like, you get 2 a day. That's it, buddies. So we were stuck there for like a month, 2 MREs a day before we could get food out to us. So I don't want to touch the dang thing.
I believe it. I believe it.
Dude, we had to, and it's SFAS, it's Special Forces Assessment and Selection. When you go through, you like get. It all varies. Our class, they dumped out like a bunch of piles of MREs on the ground. They're like, everybody take 12, put them in your rucksacks. They're like 2.5 pounds in MRE.
Mm-hmm.
on top of the 100 and whatever pounds we're already carrying.
Yeah.
And they're like, you guys can, like eat. I think it was like, certain time periods we were like allowed to grab them. And basically like what you do is how do I put this in like not cussing terms?
What?
It's called
rat-fucking it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's called rat-fucking. And basically, like you're stuffing as much as you can into your pockets so it's not on your back. And like as you're like, cause some of the movements there, you're finding like land nav, you're finding points, and it's like your movements can get up to like 13 clicks. So you're walking. I say walking. You're like running and eating an MRE at the same time, and it's
we would
like
do that on patrols too. You pick it out, rip the top, and you squeeze it like a Go-Gurt tube into your mouth, and it's just like mac and cheese or beef and noodles or whatever.
chili mac.
Oh my god!
Just squeezing it in, just choking it down because you need the calories.
It's the nutrients you need. Like you're not at that point. You're not doing it for taste. You're just like, I need this to
survival.
Keep going.
It's literally just survival, and I think that I think is the key difference between the way we view that kind of stuff and the way other people do.
I also kind of know how it is when it comes out and it's not fun.
Yeah. I can only imagine. So how did you prep then for this event? Because so they're telling you 2 MREs. Obviously, you're not packing like a real world MRE because those are not great as we've talked about. So how did you prep your gear? Like, did they give you a kit list and everything else that you needed to bring?
Yeah, so they gave us a tax op, and it's pretty strict. So they're like, you have to have for any of our team for Blue 4, you had to have NATO style weaponry, whether it was AR type stuff or
G36 or like
any
AK-5
like
stuff.
No AKs.
AK-5's a Swedish gun.
Oh yeah. So yeah, any NATO style gun, we're good to go. Your gear, I say gear. Your clothing had to be multicam, top and bottom with belt. Had to have boots. You had to have either plate carrier or chest rig.
Had to have a helmet.
No, they suggested helmets.
No, I'm pretty sure it was helmet. You have to have a helmet, but you can switch plate carrier or chest rig.
Oh, okay.
That's the way they worded it. At least that's how I picked it.
I don't know. I thought it said in like parentheses like helmets are suggested, which
I think they're.
Who knows? Whatever. We'll see tomorrow. But
yeah.
Gear color didn't matter in terms of like plate carrier, chest rig, but like you had to be in multicam clothing, and then depending on your cold weather stuff, they said you could have like Coyote Brown cold weather top, like jacket or whatever. But they're gonna do like a gear inspection and everything before. You had to have a like mag. Yeah, like mag holsters. I think they had to have 3 because it's mid cap only. They're issuing the ammo out.
Okay.
So you're starting with approximately 500 rounds, and then like there are opportunities for resupply and stuff like that. But like you had to have whatever mag carrier anybody uses that had to hold 3 mid caps.
Gotcha.
No, that was really it. Like gear wise, that was it in terms of like that. No pyro for the event. Not even smoke grenades. So I'm assuming we'll probably get like supplied with it. I'm hoping we get supplied with them.
I love smoke grenades. They're my favorite.
But like, no, you can't use pyro there. No explosive pyro at Ballahack. Remember, you can't. You can only use smokes.
Well, yeah,
it's because the swamp rules of Virginia. You can't use like
conservation. It's a big swamp. Like, it's really important to the ecosystem.
Yeah, like the EG67s aren't allowed. They're even on like weekend play and stuff. So it's really the only like Enola Gay smoke grenades that you're pretty much allowed to use.
Yeah,
cold burn, cold fusion stuff.
Yeah,
but it's the same kind of stuff we're allowed to use. Yeah.
For this event, they're like none of that. I'm hoping they'll like supply us with it as we go with like resupplies and stuff.
It'll be like how it is in the Army, where only like squad leaders and team leaders are given X amount of smoke grenades or flashbangs or grenades. Because I didn't ever get a grenade. Well, I got 1 smoke grenade. That's because I was role playing. I was role playing during a training event as a squad leader, so I got a smoke grenade to set off.
And honestly, a lot of times smoke grenades. Everybody, airsoft smoke grenades are generally used for like concealment as you move. That's rare in the case of like military, depending on what you're doing.
It's pretty common for us, at least. Our combined arms live fires, we used a lot of smoke grenades. So
because for us, ours are mainly used for like marking was big ones, but that was also the colored smoke. We never used colored smoke to like move under it. It was always white smoke if we were gonna move under smoke.
Well, yeah, we did a lot of our favorite live fire exercise was breaching a mine wire obstacle, which calls you to pop smoke while breaching to obtain concealment from enemy fire. But Yeah.
So
So.
aside from that stuff, like they're providing the ammo,
Mhm.
you got your gear all squared away. So what about the other stuff? Like, are you, like you mentioned food? Is there anything else that you're required, like emergency blankets, IFAKs, like that kind of stuff?
No,
No.
hydration was a hydration,
Hydration,
whatever.
yeah,
They said at least a
obviously,
canteen, but they recommended like a hydration pack. So like
like
we both have
camelbacks.
camelbacks,
Right.
all
How
that
long
stuff.
is the
But
game?
7 hours,
7 hours. Okay, yeah.
Continuous,
yeah,
yeah,
continuous.
nonstop.
But anything like I know, which actually now that I think about it, that makes sense for like the is it gun runners? What was it?
Gun gamers.
Gun gamers. How they require like emergency blankets for like their cold games. Like it makes
Yep.
sense. But with this, the field's not that big in terms of like moving around. So like if you are cold, like you can walk, and it. I think getting from like end to end main part takes 15 minutes max. If you're walking like I would say like slow, hindered, cold, anything like that. Normal walking, 10 minutes. It's not like, and it's all pretty linear.
Gotcha.
So it's not like it's a big.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna have us move around.
I don't know.
We'll find out, but
Yeah.
I like that security blanket thing though, because in the military, we always talked about like during training events, you have the creeping cold, where you get wet
Yep.
or you get tired and your body temperature continually drops, no matter how much you're moving. If you're
Yeah.
dehydrated, you're not
It's a
well fed,
huge
you're just
problem.
gonna keep dropping, and then next thing you know,
Yeah.
you're down on the ground cold catting.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I like that. That's a smart idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I've been really looking into ultra marathon running, and like, there's this guy I follow. He's a Canadian guy. His name is Jeff Peltier, and he's doing an ultra marathon, or he did an ultra marathon last year in Georgia, not United States Georgia, Europe Georgia,
Oh
and it
wow.
was a 7 day staged race that is self kitted. So you have to carry all of your food. So they recommended a minimum of like 14,000 calories of food plus a macro breakdown for 7 days. Like the aid stations, they can give you water, like obviously because you're not going to carry that much water for seven
Yeah.
days, but that's it. You have to carry all your own food and stuff. But they have a huge list of other things that you need to carry, including emergency blankets and whistles and a whole crap ton of other stuff,
Yeah.
compasses because your GPS could die, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's where that idea comes from, especially here where we can get very cold, and like that creeping cold that you're talking about is a huge concern because you get wet and cold, like you were saying, or you get sweaty, which is
Mhm.
wet, right? And yeah, so totally. So
Yeah.
and then for food, let's talk about that in particular because I'm really curious, right? Like we said no MREs, which is legit. What kind of food
Yeah.
are you bringing for an event like that? Because it's 7 hours. So like realistically
Yeah.
speaking, nobody is gonna die from not having enough food, right? Like it's
Yeah.
very unlikely. But that being
So
said, you still want to make sure you have the right nutrition to
yeah.
support the action that you want to take on the field. Like that's something we see all the time. That people show up to the field, they got no energy. Yeah, because you didn't eat, bud. Like you gotta eat
Yeah.
your food, drink your water, right? So how did you prep that to support yourselves in the game tomorrow?
So, for me, personally, I have a watch that always tracks like how many calories I burn a day.
Hmm.
I try and keep an accurate calorie count. I don't really count my calories. I probably need to start doing that. But I keep a general track, right? Like I
Right.
know, okay, this meal is approximately like 1,200 calories, so I have to hit my next couple meals can be like 1,000 calories each. So I stay in that deficit.
Yeah.
Right? So for this event, I was just thinking through, okay, for my work, I'm always on my feet a whole day. For like 12 hours, I'm on my feet walking across big buildings and stuff like that. So I know when I'm on my feet all day and I'm constantly moving, constantly working, I burn like 3,300 calories a day. Okay, so if I eat a pretty decent sized breakfast, let's say it hits about 1,000 calories, that leaves me with 2,300 calories I need to fill. Okay, each peanut butter and jelly sandwich is approximately 400, I think like 420 calories. So if I make four of those, that's 1,600 calories right there. So that leaves 700 calories. Cool. If I buy these Cliff Bars and these other little like snacks to sustain me throughout that I can just kind of pull out or have Chris pop out of my pack and I can like
Yeah.
shove it in my mouth real quick and get that little extra 200, 300 calorie bump,
Mm-hmm.
then I know I'm going to hit the required calories I need for that day until the game's over, kind of thing. So like when I told him peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I knew I wanted something, for not packing MREs, I wanted something nice and light that wasn't going to keep me bogged down, but something that still was relatively calorie dense to where I knew I could hit the appropriate amount of calories for that event, kind of deal.
Yeah,
If that makes
absolutely.
sense.
No, yeah, it's a really great approach. What about yourself, Chris? Same
It's
deal?
the same. Yeah, it's the same. Like I don't do the whole calorie tracking just because I never have. I don't know why. I just never have. But like my whole thing is like generally I know what food gives me energy and gives me like the protein I need to go. And a lot of that stems from I've been playing hockey, competitive hockey since I was. Gee, I started skating when I was 2.
No way.
Yeah, and so I've been playing ever since. Now it's like beer leagues and everything, but I played in high school. And so like I generally knew like what types of like dinners, pre-games, meals and stuff like that I wanted to eat. And then like with going on like other MILSIMs and stuff, I generally kind of have that idea as well. So we planned for dinner night like a lighter carb protein based dinner. So we actually have chicken marinating in the fridge right now. We're doing like grilled chicken with pasta with Alfredo sauce and like a Caesar salad.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get all the food groups that we need. We have the energy. I've been hydrating for like the last week, and I had the weird idea. If anybody knows, weird idea to do a water tasting. We went to the store and got like 6 different bottles of water, and we're drinking them to see which one's the best. So 1, it's fun, and 2, we're hydrated.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that's what we've been doing to prep for like our body and nutrition and stuff. Like same as him is like I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches give me stuff. They're easy, they're quick to eat, and then Cliff Bars are just something that like I can throw in my little like dangly pouch in the front and grab them as I need them.
Legit, man. Is there any food that's like? Because I know in MREs I always pack in like morale food or whatever. Like I don't know. Well, I don't know what they pack in the US. In Canada, it's like a Kit Kat or like a candy bar or whatever, right? Kit Kat Chunky was always nice to have in there, I suppose. But like, is there anything that you pack for yourselves that's like that morale food for you that you're just like, oh, I can't wait to dive into this, and just like gives you a bit of get up and go?
Oh, we should go get some.
That's a good idea. We have white chocolate macadamia nut Cliff Bars.
Yeah, but like, actually, one of the big things that I always used to bring with me, and it sounds like when I say it, a lot of people
Skittles.
No, it's a Lifesaver gummies.
Oh
yeah,
those are good.
So everybody's like, "Ew, why would you take that? That can't be good for you." It's like, nah, bro. When you're like moving constantly, you need that sugar intake, right? Your body needs that little push, that little bump forward, and they're pretty like calorie dense for a candy.
I did Skittles. So it was easy to like open the corner and just like as I'm walking, holding my rifle and like eating at the same time.
I always just kept my open bag of Lifesavers like in my big cargo pouch. So all I did was just shove my hand in, and you just hear.
That's awesome.
Great tactical awareness there. Hold on, everybody. Shh.
What the hell are you doing? Don't worry about it. You want some? Absolutely.
You can get these Cliff blocks. I don't know if you guys I don't know if they're called in Canada. They're called blocks, BLOKZ. It's by Cliff, the same brand as the bars, but they're basically just like gummies, and they're I think they're like 35 calories per gummy. And you can get them with caffeine in them as well, and also sodium. Like if you're really like you want to have that hydration retention, like they got that extra sodium in there too. I don't think it's particularly going to be important for you guys for a 7-hour MILSIM, but it's there. So yeah,
I used to do salt shots.
Yeah,
take that little salt pack out of the MRE and knock it back, flush it down with water, good to go.
Yeah.
What were those? They used to give us like before ops.
What? Those liquid IV? Or
no. The like
drippy drops.
No. The like the like they're like bright silver, and it was just like salt, and it was like
drip drops
flavoring. Yeah, and dude, they tasted so bad. You like put it in your can. It just it tastes like you were eating.
It's like watered down Gatorade mixed with really trash Kool-Aid.
No, it tastes like you're drinking ocean water. It's horrible.
Different strokes for different folks, apparently. That's
we called them
hilarious.
drip drops, and we had like these big canteens they issued us. They're called 2-quarts. They're big square canteens.
Yeah.
And what we would do is we collect all the drip drop packets that we could find, plus like the drink packets from MREs, and we jungle juice it.
Well, now you're cheating.
And we pour them all into a quart, shake it up, and we pass it around, and it tastes just like Kool-Aid.
Well, now you're cheating because you put the extra flavoring in there.
Yeah, but drip drops are good, man. They're really good for you too.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff.
A liquid IV is the same thing, or I think
sodium, potassium. Like, there's a ton of stuff in there that just like helps you not cramp, not get dehydrated, everything like that.
It's just an electrolytic solution condensed down, quick and easy.
Gotcha. All right, so for tomorrow, what do you think? What are you really looking forward to in terms of your prep that really will set you up for success compared to some of the other people who might be showing up?
I know mine.
What's that?
Well, I bought a new plate carrier today, so I'm really excited to try that out. Jimmy finally convinced me to go Gucci gear, so I'm excited for that because it's a different setup than mine. The way it's cut, it's I don't know how it's
like a shooter's cut.
Yeah, it's like the velocity system
cuts in.
Okay,
but it cuts out a spot for like your rifle stock.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hoping for is to actually be able to really shoulder my rifle like I wasn't wearing any armor, and that way to get like that almost that better sight picture than having it, like a lot of play carriers where you have to put it on the
side. Yeah,
it's kind of like weird. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to trying that and just kind of seeing how I can move better, and honestly, even those shoulder transitions will be a lot easier with it cut out.
That's a good question. I don't know. It all depends on who we play with tomorrow. If we are even better, they might be better than us. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But
we'll just be horrible tomorrow.
Just phone it in the whole day.
We're falling out of the march. We're like leaning over a tree, like I can't do it anymore. I'm dead. Kill me.
I'm hit. You haven't even gotten contact yet. I'm already hit.
Just add to somebody else's role play. They get to be your hero. Exactly. Come and save you, like drag you somewhere.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. No, yeah. Equipment wise and gear wise, I don't know. Like I said, it all depends on who we're playing with. Quality of gear wise,
yeah, we're set for that.
We're set for that. We got some really good stuff.
So our gear's generally set up the same every time we play, and it's usually like designed for that high spec MILSIM op where like you can carry a lot of stuff, but you're also fast and be able to move on your feet and stuff. So it's kind of like, I'm just gonna get it.
Okay,
it's right here.
He's getting an example, but
that's fair enough.
Yeah. For me, I just set it up the same way I have my Army kit. It's not at all the same. I run an SPC by Cry, so not at all what I got issued, but I set it up in the same manner.
Okay.
I don't know if that really sets me above anybody else. If people like look out and they research stuff, they'll be able to kind of know how to set things up the same way I do.
Mm-hmm.
But
so like
for me, it helps, I guess.
It's all pretty much set up. Everything I need in terms of like mags is here. I have another mag on the side, radio, floppy pouch. It's all pretty slick, but quick on the kit.
Right.
It's kind of how we both set it up.
Speed, low drag.
Yeah, to where it's like
Everybody always likes to say it's the cringiest.
Yeah, man.
Basically, the best way to describe it.
Yeah. I hate that phrase.
It's so bad, but it's it's like how fast can we be while also being effective and to be able to carry all that gear and stuff that we really need.
One of the big things for me, I talked with him about it when we first started playing, was this is just a little pet peeve. It doesn't make me any more special than anybody else, but one of the big things I hate is like double stacking stuff on the front of your kit, because when you try to go prone, then like the way it cants you up, then like half your body is sitting 4 inches taller than I am if I'm fully prone.
Yeah.
For me as a machine gunner, that was a huge deal. When I ran my kit, I had nothing on the front except for like my pistol, and then everything was on the sides, so I could pull it out, or the guy next to me would pull it out, like my assistant gunner. So I could sit perfectly flush, because that's the whole job of a machine gunner. I sit behind cover and I shoot at the enemy so that they stay behind cover and my guys can move up and kill them. Right?
Did you ever try the like tip mags?
No.
Not tip mags. It's where you put like, because the machine gunners have big, they're big square mags. A lot of people mount two, like right here. So when they lay down, it kind of kicks them up onto the machine gun.
So that helps if you're a saw gunner. Some people do that. When you're a 240, you don't have what we call a nut sack.
Yeah.
Which is like the little bag underneath the gun that holds all your stuff. It's just belts, right? So I kept
Yeah,
everything.
I know in talking with Jordan on the podcast many weeks ago now, he was talking about like he's very fond of the belt setup specifically for that when he's doing his RPK support or his support gunning roles. He has all of it, his big old mags like on the side, so it's not interfering with his front. Because I feel the same way. Like I run a double stack, but that's it. I never run anything in front of that. Like I try and keep it as low pro as possible. But you're totally right. Like there are times where I really want to get down behind something, and I'm like. I physically cannot. Like there is this much plastic between me and the deck. It's just that's physics. Like I don't know what to tell, or geometry, I guess. It's just not happening. So yeah, I totally get that.
And everything's personal preference, right? But that's just one of my things personally. I never liked. I always like sleek front.
Well, I used to run the double stack, member, and then I tried out because I was always like, I want to carry 8 mags. And then I was like thinking, I was like, when do I ever actually run through 8 mags in a game where like I can't have somebody get the few like out of my backpack that I have? So I went to that slick front where it's 3, and then I have 2 on the side. So I run 5 on the kit, 1 in the rifle, and then I usually carry 10 on me. So I'll have 4 in my backpack, which like that's why we like playing together because generally we know where each other's stuff is, and that's like we talked about in the episode with the tax op is like. I can go while Jimmy's engaging the enemy and just grab a mag out of his backpack and like be like, I'm grabbing a mag and like putting it in my rifle and helping. Like then when it dies down, then we can figure out like I can give him one of mine or like whatever, give it back. So it's kind of like that slick front has helped so much.
Yeah.
When I run too, I'm not bouncing all the time with the double stack.
Legit, yeah. I mean, that's the reason we, when we started the team, we were like, we want everyone running M4s or like that platform because I want to be able to get a Mac off Pat or Cal or Mark or Matt or Chris or it doesn't matter who. Yeah. It's like I need a mag. Here is one for you, right? One of the earliest like memes that we had internally on the team. This is before a long time was just like me on the field shouting at my buddy Mario, being like, Mario, toss me a mag. And he just like baseball throws it and it just comes out of orbit basically and lands in my hand and goes right into the gun. And I just like shoot some guy and get him. Like you could pay me $1 million to recreate that and I would not be able to, right? Like it's one of those, but that's not possible if I don't have I don't have a mag that he can use or vice versa, or I don't have a piece of kit that I can just go and grab from him. No questions asked. Right? Like I need this now. Here you go. Take it. And so there's a lot of value. And again, talking about what we were talking about right at the beginning, like you can't plan for that with people who you don't know, right? Even if you know that the guy is using, the same gun that you are or whatever, you can't just go up to some random dude and take his stuff, right? Like it's a different vibe, right?
And two, like you don't know if those even if it might be the same gun, you don't know if those mags will work.
Yeah.
Like, my other buddy I run with has a Mark 18, but it's a recoil shock. So those proprietary mags don't work in my gun.
Nice.
So I can't even ask him for a mag, and I'm like, he can't borrow one of mine. Like they just won't work. Which is, that's the other thing. Like we've talked about it, and my whole philosophy is, as long as I would say like 40 to 50% of like the team you're on is running the same mags, then it's like, okay, if you got an LMG or you got a DMR that aren't running them, like that's fine. Because you have at least other people you can grab them from. But like, it's like that whole thing we talked about is like, you don't want to exclude people just because they're not running the same stuff as you if you want to play with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's one of the big things I think. I get on it all the time. We end up talking about it is it really carries over from the stuff I've done before. It's like standardization of equipment kind of thing. Like I had it drilled into my head that things are set up very similarly. For that reason, I know exactly where I need to go. And at first, when I was in the military, I was like, this is dumb. Why would we do this? What if I want to put my IFAK, my medical pouch, on the other side? And instead of the left rear, where our entire battalion has to put it.
Well, then you're going to bleed out.
Well, then, my medic comes up to me during the training. He's like, all right, boom. Espinosa's shot. Where's his medical pack? I'll go left rear side. He's like, yeah. if we didn't have that standard and you were allowed to put it everywhere, and you're wasting valuable seconds if he's like shot in his artery and you don't know where his tourniquets are, instead of all of us having, one in each arm, one in each leg, then you're going to spend all this valuable time digging around trying to find where everything is. Next thing you know, he's dead, or he's, got brain damage or something because he's lost so much blood, and that like drilled it into my head. Like, I get it now. I need to know where everybody is at, not just for me, but for everyone else on my team. Like, if I run up to Chris, he's like, bro, I'm all out of mags. Give me a mag. And I know, boom, go right into his pack and pull out a mag and throw it to him. Then it's not just me grabbing a mag from him. It's me giving him ammunition,
Yeah.
knowing that.
Yeah.
Which you've done that before.
I have done that before. We've done that in a couple different little skirmishes we've had. Like, at the end of the day, when you're chewing through your mags and, just boom, zip, that pocket, here you go, bro, let's go. Instead of being like, I don't know where it is, and some little speed softer runs up beside us and just guns us all down in one go. I know, boom, 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 boom. There you go, bro. Let's go.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said. I mean, it's so funny because I do a lot of this in my professional work too. Like, standardizing work practices is super, super important. It's just, I guess, the stakes in your previous work are very different, right? Like you were saying, if you don't know where his IFAC is, that is a real problem. Whereas for us, and I mean, there's this, I think in Airsoft too, like, there's a time and place. Like, we all have, our meme gear or the gear that we just enjoy running because it's fun and whatever, which is totally cool. But like John, for example, on the team, he's like, oh, I got an FNFAL. I've got this World War II reenactment kit. I've got all this really cool gear, and it legit, like, it's all awesome. But if I look at him and say, hey, this game tomorrow is important, please wear your good stuff, he's like, cool. And like, we know what that means, right? Yeah. Like, because it's like, oh no, we're being serious tomorrow. Okay, so it's going to be chest rig. It's going to be, M4. It's going to be all the regular kit, right? So yeah, I'm excited to see and to hear a little bit more about how the event goes for you guys tomorrow. But I'm just curious, as a last question, do you think that, especially given that this is Airsoft we're talking about, do you think there's anything about your previous military experience that's actually going to hinder or hold you back in some way compared to some of the people who have not who have not experienced what you have?
Yeah, I think I think one of the big things that's going to kind of I don't know if it's going to like get on my nerves. It all depends on what mindset I get into tomorrow when I play. But one of the big things I think for me personally is, like, I know I have all this training of how this should be done, and I don't know. Like I said before, I don't know who I'm playing with.
Yeah,
I could be playing with 19-year-olds who've never done anything. I could be playing with a 45-year-old Navy SEAL. Like, there's going to be different ways of doing things, and I'm going to have to like bite my tongue before like going after people and being like, nah, you got to do it like this, because I don't want to be that guy. No one wants to be that guy. It's like, you're doing it wrong. Do it my way.
You're having fun incorrectly.
Exactly. So like, it's like that suspension of disbelief thing that always gets talked about with simulations and Airsoft and that kind of stuff, where it's like, always reminding myself it's a game. There's not much like, I mean, there might be a good tactical knowledge to be gained from it. Yeah. Doubt it. I shouldn't say that. That's a little bit mean. But there is a possibility. But just knowing that I need to kind of take that step back, have fun with it. Really, the biggest thing transitioning from military to like Airsoft, for me at least, is a lot of its attitude, and it's how you interact with people. One of the big things is, like, I know we kind of talked about it before we started filming, is like swearing. I'm used to like just looking at somebody and being like, hey, F face, do this. And it's not me being mean. It's just like, that's the way we did it. If I was running up alongside my buddy and we're, assaulting through an ambush, he's not going to be like, hey, Jimmy, could you please do this? He's going to be like, hey, retard, shoot that guy. And, people don't take nicely to that, or people don't take nicely to you being like, if they're not mature enough, you being like, hey, you're wrong. Can I tell you how you should do this? And whether or not they're receptive of that is all up to them, and it's also up to how you approach them. But I think really the biggest hindrance is like being able to discern, like not discern, but just knowing that, hey, this isn't going to be done properly.
Mm-hmm.
So give people the benefit of the doubt kind of thing, and don't give up on it too quickly when things start falling to crap, because you expect people to know what to do, but you're playing with people who didn't do this,
Yeah.
for a career, for a little period of time.
Yeah, it's a bit of an
That's
expectation setting a little bit for
Yeah.
yourself, and a constant reminder once you, because I think I can absolutely imagine that once your brain starts going back to that space that you're familiar with, it's just going to do what it does, which legit, which but also comes with all that other baggage you were talking about, and having to sort of
Yeah.
be a bit more mindful about, no, like this, 16-year-old person who I just got online with has no idea, has never even heard the word that I just told him, good or ill, whatever the word is. They're like, what does that mean? Right? So I can I can totally imagine. What about yourself, Chris? Like, is there anything in your mind that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, mine would be kind of honestly tagging along that is lowering expectations for, like, especially the military. Like, everybody knows their job. You know what to do, and like some people had the same job. Some people obviously had different jobs, going down to like dig deep of like machine gunner, rifleman, like team leader, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing is like, that's not going to be the case when we play. Like, not everybody's going to know what to do, especially if everything starts to fall apart. Like, some people may be like frozen deer in headlights. I don't know what to do, and just kind of stand there in the open.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's where, like, either for me, like, I can go two ways. Either I can, like, as we've said, like, you need to like be nice. Like, I can be nice, help them out, kind of like show them like what I've known, or like Jimmy, where you get heated.
I do get heated
into the moment, and like you just kind of blurt out stuff like, again, like you're not meaning to, like that's what we're used to, but like, so it's really just like going in there with expectations of like, hey, most likely these guys aren't gonna always know what to do, and like it could surprise us, and like they could, and that would be awesome.
Who knows,
but like
maybe we're playing with like SEAL Team 6 tomorrow.
Yeah, like
you never know.
Like, you don't know. So it's like those expectations, like I would say don't set them too high, but then also don't set them too low, because like it is 18 or older event. Generally, people who this like appeal to theoretically would know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like there's plenty of information you can find online. You can buy a Ranger handbook, and everything that we're going to be doing tomorrow is in there. I have to plug that.
So you really wanted to throw the Ranger
it's a
handbook in
lifeblood.
there.
I got it sitting right here. It was forced down my throat by all my leadership, so I got to say something about it. But you can learn these things, and if anybody's like listening who wants to not be that guy who like triggers people who are like more experienced kind of thing, if you want to help us help you out, seek out that information. Don't be offended when people approach you and kind of abrasively, unless they are genuinely being aggressive to you. Then but if people are trying to get your attention, they're trying to relay information, don't be upset and learn to kind of roll with it. And if give us feedback. Like, if I'm being an a-hole, be like, hey man, I get what you're saying, but like chill out. Like, my bad, bro.
This is, at the end of the day, like, we're doing this presumably for fun, right?
Yeah.
Which makes it a lot easier for me to assume positive intent. If some guy comes up to me and is like, and I've experienced this myself, and our games are obviously, they're just games. Nobody's winning any medals. Nobody is dying. Like, it's supposed to be chill, and people are getting really heated. And I'm like, okay, hang on. Like, I get that this person is being heated with me, but like, what is the issue? Right? Like, can we understand a little bit about why is this person upset right now? Because I might not, you say it's 18 plus and people can do their research, which is fine. There could be people, and I'm sure there will be, who are just there. I'm just here to have a good time. Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that person is not willing to do the work to do it, but they just don't know. Right. So now if you're shouting at me and I'm like, I want to help, I just don't understand why this guy's shouting at me. It's like, okay, hang on. Why are you upset? right? Why is this an issue? And you have the luxury of doing that on the airsoft field because nobody is going to die as a result of this conversation that, I presumably I've never been in this position, and I don't want to, I don't want to speak out of turn, but like if someone's shouting at you to like get online and start putting fire down for real, like there's an urgency to that is not the same as, oh, I got hit, I'll see you at the respawn. Like different stakes, right? So I totally get what you're saying. And I think the message I would say, and we talked about it a lot on the podcast, is like you just got to assume positive intent, right? If people are there, like if people are legit being, an asshole, like you were saying, like yeah, that's a different story. But there's always, there's always ground. Like we're all here to have a good time. So how do we make that happen, right? And I definitely take that message to heart because we don't want to create environments where people, like yourselves, for example, are constantly getting sort of annoyed by players who are like, how do you not get this? Right. And vice versa, like newer players or players who are just there to have a good time being like, why is this like this sweaty army guy shouting at me? Right. Like there's always this middle ground, but there's a conversation needs to happen. Chris and I, we talked about that a little while ago. Like you get so much out of just having like just honest conversation with people that are like, okay, like, I get that you're upset. What do we need to do? Like, what's our path forward here? Right. And
And
so,
if I may,
yeah,
that's like one of the big things for me when I was in the Army. I didn't like being in a leadership position because I always say I love the infantry and I love being an infantryman, but I hated the politics and the drama of the Army, right?
yeah,
But one of my favorite things, I love to teach people stuff about the Army. It was only 3.5 years of my life. I only did one contract and I was out. But the stuff I learned there, if you're serious about shooting or like learning tactics or just like gear and you want to know, like I want to teach you. So for me, that's like one of the biggest things I really enjoy about this is like getting with people, having that fun, but also getting something out of value that people can like carry on into other things. If they want to do like shooting, if they want to, join the military or just be an accurate LARPer.
yeah,
If I can teach them stuff, I would love to teach them. I would love to have a whiteboard and be like, all right, this is how you clear a building. I tell Chris that all the time. Eventually our podcast is going to turn into a teaching lesson with me with a whiteboard right here. But
Jimmy's teaching corner.
Yeah, I'm teaching corner versus center fed. Let's do this, But for real, I mean, everybody presumably who goes there, like especially younger generations, they want to learn that stuff.
yeah,
They want to be they want to be the cool guys. And I wasn't a cool guy, but I know how to clear a building more than the vast majority of these people here. I can teach you the basics of it if you want to learn that, and then you can learn all the little fancy stuff that like CAG and everybody else does. But that's what I really love about this sport, and especially like MILSIM in general, is the fun part, the sport of it, and then learning.
Mm-hmm. But it's funny that you say you're not, you weren't a cool guy, but to a lot of people, especially like civilians, especially, you are the cool guy, right? Because you did service and they did not, right? You got to live it for real, what they think is so cool about being in the military, right? And they only think that because they don't know the reality of that, I would suspect. Not least of which the fact that probably being shot at is not all it's cracked up to be, I would suspect, not having been shot at myself on purpose. Like I can only imagine what that's like. So I think for a lot of people there's this idealized version of like, oh my god, like this guy was in the service, and so regardless of whether that's true or not, like in terms of whether you were a cool guy or not, you are that cool guy for them, right? And you can impart knowledge to them if they're willing to listen. And that means that at the end of the day, you're leaving sort of your mark, you're leaving more into the world than you have taken from it, right? Which is cool, right? And I definitely if you do decide to do Jimmy's whiteboard of knowledge and as part of your, like, I think that's great, right? That's the reason that we do this channel. That's the reason that these chats that we have on the podcast are not just about, oh, let's talk about all these great plays, but it's like, how can we share knowledge in a way that when people listen to it, they go, oh, I just learned something. I took something away from it that helps me sort of. So I'm just really grateful that you guys came on the podcast to talk to us a little bit about your mindset going into this event. I'm really looking forward to part two. I think it's going to be really cool to see how all of this stuff did shake out. How long did it take for everything to fall apart as you predicted? Is it like minutes or hours, or did it not fall apart at all? And some of those interactions too, where you got to see hopefully that your teammates really lived up to some of your expectations or even surpassed them. And maybe one of the guys turns out to be Travis Haley or whatever, and you're playing with this guy who has all this experience. But so thanks so much for coming on, guys. If you want to keep the conversation going, if you want to learn more, I know Chris, you're pretty active on the Discord. The link is in the description. We have a really great community of people from all around the world. As a quick reminder, we do have our Discord community patch. It is still for sale. It looks like this. It is very cool. And it is the design that the community voted on. You can get it signed or unsigned. It's the link is in our Discord. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Thanks for being on, Chris and Jimmy, and we will talk to you again very shortly. And for our listeners, we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks so much for listening.